Hey guys, what's up? GreenMachineSam back with another video, and today we're going to be doing something special. We're going to be taking a look at the top 5 franchises, in my opinion, pre-draft for Madden 24. These are franchises that I'm considering doing a franchise rebuild with, or just doing rebuilds with in general in Madden 24. Now, these are just my personal opinions based off of storylines and stuff like that, but I think these are some pretty interesting teams. Now, of course, a lot can change with the draft and free agency still well underway. And, well, as trades could still happen, since there are some of these teams that do have the possibility of trading some of these players. But I think this would be a fun and interesting time to go over some of the teams that I'm thinking about rebuilding and putting out a franchise next year. So let's get into things. My number 5 team, the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are in an interesting situation, with trading up for the number 1 overall pick and having Andy Dalton and Matt Corral in their QB room, as well as Jacob Eason. Bringing in guys like Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst, DJ Chark, Damiere Byrd, and even Laviska Shenault last year, it provides an interesting, unique situation. They have plenty of talent on this team, but no true superstars. After losing DJ Moore in the trade to the Chicago Bears, they lack a severe number 1. But they do have some good young talent in Chuba Hubbard, Shea Smith, Terrence Marshall, Tommy Tremble, and even Laviska Shenault. Now, their O-line is what really needs to improve next year. In second year and third year, man, Ike Okongwu and Brady Christensen. If both those guys can take the next step, this offensive line could be formidable for years. They already have the right side locked down. Bozeman is fine. It just needs the left side to come around. Their defense is kind of in a weird situation. They have star talent all around the board, not just including their dev traits on Madden, but young, good players. But the real question is, can any of these guys turn into the game wreckers that they need to be? Their front 7 is pretty good at the moment. It's nothing spectacular, but it is trending in the right direction. You have guys like Frankie Louvu, Yetur Gross-Matos, Brian Burns, and Derek Brown. You also have guys like, of course, Henry Anderson, Shai Tuttle, and Marquise Haynes. But those guys don't really matter. We're going to be talking about the young talent. They just need to one of them needs to turn into a game wrecker. Brian Burns looks like he's on that way, but he hasn't quite turned into that dominant edge rusher that everybody would be hoping for. Kamuga Hill and Shaq Thompson just aren't going to get it done at the linebacker position. Their linebacker position is kind of abysmal. If Shaq Thompson wasn't as high overall as what he is right now, you would probably think they have one of the worst linebacking cores in the nation. But with no real backups and no real young guys on this team getting ready to replace a player, it's hard to say that their linebacking core is going to be very good. Especially with how good your defensive line is, you need a linebacker to be able to slow down the run. The defensive backs are what I'm excited about, though. You have guys like Dante Jackson, Eric Rowe, J.C. Horn, C.J. Henderson, Von Bell, Jeremy Chin, Sean Chandler, Xavier Woods, Sam Franklin. You have all these guys that look pretty promising. You have some key veterans like I just listed off and some very young talent guys. J.C. Horn is probably one of the best corners in the league currently, and you have good veterans around him. Plus, if C.J. Henderson can turn things around, this defensive backfield could make it so easy on this defensive line to get some sacks because, hey, if you can cover them for 3 seconds, the defensive line should be able to get there. As exciting and young as this team are, it doesn't have a whole ton of draw. Yes, it has the number 1 overall pick, and it has some decent players on the team, but it doesn't have that wow factor or good storyline right now. J.C. Horn is one of the best corners in the league, as well as bringing in Bryce Young in probably this upcoming draft is really cool. But not having a 2023 second and not having a 2024 first or second kind of blows, and not having DJ Moore also is a big letdown. It doesn't also help that I did have franchise back with them in Madden 21. And that is why the Carolina Panthers are currently my number 5 team. Now, things can always change depending on the draft and everything, but they are number 5 in the franchise list. My number 4 team is the New England Patriots. Before we get started, you have to remember one thing of why I would pick the Patriots. We're not going based off a star dev trait. We're not going off of whether or not I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm looking for cool storylines surrounding the teams. There's a couple storylines. Mac Jones has reportedly been shopped throughout the offseason. Is Bill Belichick still a good GM? Can the Patriots way still work? We'll have to see. But with the QB room that contains Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, and the meme Trace McSorley, I think that would be a cool QB competition. Plus, you have in the package of trading up for a new quarterback in either Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. You could package the 14-pick Mac Jones and some other stuff to help get their quarterback. Ramondre Stevenson and James Robinson Jr. are both big bruisers that can really carry this team on their back when need be. They could form a very formidable backfield and could easily become a good duo. Hell, it doesn't take much to become a good duo at running back in this league. Their receiving core is what I have a main problem with. Now, on paper, they do look pretty good, or average, I guess you could say, with Juju Smith-Schuster, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Mike Gesicki, and Hunter Henry. They have some decent talent, but once again, no number one overall. No superstar you can go to late in game and say, hey, you're going to get force-fed if you're on one-on-one coverage. And with a lot of these guys coming off contract in a year, Juju, Kendrick, and Devontae are all coming off contract after this year, it would be a tough situation to bring all of them back, especially in Madden. Their offensive line is looking pretty good, with the likes of Trent Brown, Cole Strange, David Andrews, and Mike Owenu. They look very, very tough and very, very strong. This run game should be taken over pretty easily, but with losing Isaiah Wynn and replacing him with Riley Reif, I don't think that's a very good fit. Now, of course, that is probably one of the positions that Bill Belichick is looking to replace in this year's upcoming draft, but as of right now, they do have a weakness at that right tackle, but with guys like Mike Owenu and Cole Strange leading the front, only both being 24, it does help things out. Their defense looks pretty solid with the likes of Matthew Judon, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, Gilwan Bentley, Josh Uche, Dietrich Wise, and Adrian Phillips. And then they have a couple young guys in Christian Barmore, Jack Jones, and Marcus Jones that I really like. Now, of course, they have decent pieces all over the field in Devon Godshaw, Lawrence Guy. The biggest issue with this defense is the rotation of both the defensive line and the cornerback situation right now. Bill Belichick rotates a lot of his guys in and out, both on the defensive line and in the cornerback room. And as of right now, they just don't have those guys to really compete. If you don't have a good a good run stopping unit and good, pass coverage unit, I don't think you're going to succeed in the league. And it's not like the linebackers really have a whole ton of help to help out that cornerback squad to lock down the middle. If Matt Judon and Josh Uche can continue to bring the heat off those edge positions, they'll make it easier for the cornerback group as a whole, as well as the defensive backfield. The safety group is weird as a whole as well. You have basically 3 strong safeties in your group with Adrian Phillips, Jabril Peppers, and Kyle Duggar. But they're all very good. So, one of them can always play in the box. Jabril Peppers is a Swiss Army knife, and so is Kyle Duggar. So it's not like one of these guys can't move around and really help out this defense. The defense of this team is really going to be what's important. They're going to help you win a couple games, but with a lot of these guys coming off contract in the next couple years, it's going to be tough keeping them around. You're either going to have to pay them or let them go. So do you keep the Patriot way alive, or do you tear it all down and restart? Number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a weird situation. They just lost their Hall of Fame quarterback, and their team has fallen down since the Super Bowl run just a couple years ago. As long as Tom Brady doesn't come back to the Tampa Bay Bucs, and even if he does come back, he's probably going to a different team anyway, this team would be a fun and interesting rebuild. But they are super top heavy. Their quarterbacks, they do not have their quarterback currently on the roster that I think will be their long-term guy. Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, I both believe, will not be that guy. So unless they're willing to trade up from 19 to go get a quarterback, I don't think the guy of the future is currently on the team then. They did just make a really good pickup in Matt Filer at the offensive guard position, but still. The running back room is just not very good. Rashad White, Chase Edmonds, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Patrick Lyard are not great running backs currently at the moment. Now, of course, everything can change with running backs. One year you could be a great running back, the next year you could be bad. Hell, just look at guys like Jordan Howard, Jeremy Langford, guys that went to Dallas and had good years. Alfred Morris, Darren McFadden. Running back is such a weird position. It can be, running back by committee. It can be workhorse. It can be anything you want it to be. And I think in the draft, you can find basically any running back you want. Their pass catchers are also very top heavy, with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Russell Gage creating a nice 1-2-3. Cade Otton just isn't a very good tight end at the moment. Now he is going into his second year, as well as Kieft is going into his second year as well. but their rest of the receiving core is also just not very good. So injuries could very much plague this team immediately. This offensive line is straight up ass. Justin Skoll, Matt Filer, Robert Hainsey, Nick Leverett, and Luke Goddick aren't going to be your answers. They're just not. You're going to have to draft more guys. Ryan Jensen's coming off an injury, and he's, 32, 33? So it's just not a very good look. Now, Tristan Wirfs is a great right tackle. He's probably been one of the best right tackles since coming into the league. But does one right tackle really help solidify that offensive line? And especially when he had injury concerns last year. Can he get around those? If not, this offensive line is looking like one of the worst units in football. Don't get me wrong, this defense is very nice. But let's get one thing out of the way. This defense is very top-heavy, and what talent it does have is getting quite old. Shaq Barrett is regressing. Levante David has noticeably taken a step back. Well, not a step back, but has slowed down. He looks like he's about half a step behind of where he used to be. Greg Gaines isn't the youngest guy. Vita Vea isn't the youngest guy. He's going to be 28 this year. Both their corners are going to be 27. They lost all their, safety talent outside of Antoine Winfield. So, this defense is getting up there in age. Joe Tyron, Devin White, Antoine Winfield, and Logan Hall. As long as they continue to develop, I think they'll be on the right track to continuing to make this defense very good. And get them back to where they were 3 years ago. But then again, like I said, they don't have a whole ton of depth. So if they face an injury, it is going to be bad for them. They do not have a whole ton of great depth. Now, a lot of these guys could step up and become great depth. And I really hope they would. But we'll have to wait and see. Also, I think all Bucs fans can agree Todd Bowles needs to be fired. And an interesting stat I learned the other day is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the worst win percentage in NFL history, sitting at a .404. So they're really the poverty franchise of the NFL, if you think about it. So I think we could pull this poverty franchise out of the dumps once and for all. Number 2, the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are in a terrible spot. And if you're just looking at their roster on even Madden, it's hard to imagine this team getting much worse. But it will. With the likes of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill probably leaving this roster sooner rather than later, this team could descend into quite a dark place. This offense is legitimately one of the worst units in football. I don't see how much better this team can get with the contracts that it currently has. Derrick Henry is likely to be traded, and Ryan Tannehill likely to be cut if no trade partners can be found by the end of next season. So, hey, they did have some nice pickups this year, though, but most of them were on the defensive side of the ball. They picked up Aziz Al-Shahir, the linebacker from San Fran, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Arden Key, and Andre Dillard, as well as Drew Brunskill. So, they've had some pickups, but are they really noteworthy? No. Their receiving core is probably the worst in the league. I think hands down. Traylon Burks is your best guy, and even him having stamina issues, and then you don't really have anybody else. It's going to be hard to throw the ball. I do like their tight end, Okonkwo, or however you pronounce his last name. But they're off in the line. Holy shit. Your best offensive lineman, technically by overall in Madden, is Andre Dillard. Or your best lineman is Dylan Radnans. It's pretty fucking bad. Let's be honest. This team is not very good. And if you do decide to get rid of Tannehill and Henry, which I would end up doing if they were still in the team next year going into Madden 24, they would likely be traded away. And then you have Malik Henry and Hassan Haskins taking over, at least for a little bit. And this team would easily be the worst in the league. I'm pretty sure if you simmed right now, Derrick Henry would either put up 2,500 yards and the team would still be bad, or Derrick Henry would put up only like 1,300 yards because the team is so bad he cannot do anything. Now for the defense. The defensive line is actually quite good, with Jeffrey Simmons leading the way. Tier Tart being that nose tackle, Danico Autry being another 3-tech, and then you got Harold Landry and Arden Key as your edge rushers, as well as Rashard Weaver. I think this is a pretty decent defensive line. Now, is it anything special? No, of course not. Danico Autry's up there in age. Harold Landry has had injury concerns. Arden Key hasn't developed out of college. Tahir Tart's just a nose tackle. So you're only really left with Jeffrey Simmons, which, with how bad this team is and what is probably going to happen to this team, I wouldn't see him wanting to stay. I would see him wanting a trade. And then you don't have good linebackers to back him up, so it's not like you can just stuff the run pretty easily. You have Shahir, who should be good, but as the main focal point of the linebacking core, you're going to see a lot more guards coming up to you than you will see them coming up to Neiman, Monty Rice, or Chance Campbell. And will that affect his play? It probably will for the beginning part. Because at least when he was in San Fran, he either had Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner being the main guy and picking up those blocks. Or at least, the blocks were, focused towards those guys. So I guess it's going to be difficult. They are young and fast, though, so that should help create some easy chances, as well as with how good this defensive line is. They should have some free running room to the running backs at times. The defensive back room is quite unique. The Titans taken a lot of these guys in the first or second rounds of the last couple of years, as well as having a good safety pairing in Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker. And bringing in Sean Murphy-Bunting even. You have guys like Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley, Roger McCreary, Elijah Molden. These are all guys that are still on rookie deals, and just none of them have really developed, whether it's due to injuries or, college injuries or just not seeing the field, just all types of situations. You could have one hell of a cornerback battle, and really it would just be dependent on who develops the most in their second, third, fourth year in the league. And I think that would be a fun, little interesting thing. And as bad as interesting this story would be, I would like Mike Vrabel to play it out in real life more than me playing it out in Madden 24. And I think there's one more team that I think has a more interesting storyline than the Tennessee Titans. My 2 honorable mentions. My honorable mentions goes to the Chicago Bears. I just recently played with them at Madden 23, so I don't think they would be a good fit, and I don't really feel like running around with Justin Fields again. Well, I shouldn't say I don't feel like it. I love running around with Justin Fields, so go fuck yourself. But I see them as my favorite team, and they fix some key positions, and I think they could be good next year, so I'm going to leave them alone. My second, and probably a team that could jump into the top 4, is the Green Bay Packers. If the Green Bay Packers end up getting rid of Aaron Rodgers in this coming, months, weeks, whatever, and send him to the Jets or wherever they want to send him, I think this team could possibly slide up into the top 4. You got very interesting decisions to make. Do you keep a lot of the veterans around and try to say, hey, we're going to continue to do what we did with Rodgers with Love? Or do you ship off some of the older guys? Do you ship off Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari, as well as even Elton Jenkins because they've had injury concerns? Do you trade off a guy like Kenny Clark? What do you do with Preston Smith? What do you do with all these guys? I mean, they have piss poor weapons currently at the moment. Watson, Dubs, and DeGuara, are those really your 3 starting, weapons in terms of receiving? John Runyon's played well, but then the rest of the offensive line has been a revolving door. Dean Lowry's okay, but then again, do you really want Devontae Wyatt starting? He's already 26. Devondre Campbell's currently taking minutes away from Quay Walker, both Quay Walker's anger problems that we've seen in games. Do you really want him starting? This team would be a fun rebuild. Even as a Bears fan, this team would be a fun rebuild. The biggest problem is they have Aaron Rodgers at the moment. And you can't necessarily get rid of him right away. Because if you get rid of him right away, then Packers fans are going to complain. But this would be a fun and interesting franchise for Madden 24 if Rodgers were to be traded away. My number 1 overall team, the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams, a team that sold their future for a ring and now must pay the price. The devil has come and they are looking to collect. Can Matt Stafford return to form? Last time we saw him, he was struggling to throw the ball anyway, and an injury could only make that worse. So is it time for the Rams to move on from Stafford as well? Probably. Cam Akers in this running back room doesn't give me much hope either. Cam Akers just has looked awful since returning from injury. And the receiving core doesn't give you much help either outside of Cooper Kupp. You got Van Jefferson, who I don't really think is particularly great. If he was the third wide receiver, I think he would be in a perfect situation. But Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek and J.J. Koski don't really give me much hope. And Hunter Long, Bryce Hopkins, and Tyler Higbee don't give me much hope either. I swear to God, every time I watch Tyler Higbee, he drops a pass in the flats or drops a pass on a curl route, and it pisses me off so much. And I'm not even a fan of the team, so I can only imagine how Rams fans feel about him. Something you'll notice about these franchise teams that I am also picking is a lot of them don't have great offensive line. A lot of them are losing a lot of offensive weapons. And, well, it's about the same here. Josh Noteboom's your starting left tackle. Brian Allen is your starting center. And Rob Havenstein is your starting right tackle. Rob is actually a lot better than I thought he was. I thought he was very injury prone. He hasn't missed a whole ton of games in his career. So, there's that. But the rest of the team, it's just... Last year, it was a revolving door of just player after player after player among that offensive line. And honestly, I don't see it getting much better with not a ton of high draft picks. This offense is straight up bad, and I don't see it getting much better, especially if Stafford is gone, if Cooper Kupp gets sold off to the highest bidder, and I wouldn't see many other players among this team currently sticking around after their contracts are up. I'm going to say one thing before we get hopping in on the defense. No disrespect to any of these players. These guys have all made the NFL. They've all made good money. They're doing what they love. They're getting paid to play a game. But let's be honest. If Jordan Fuller, Ernest Jones, and Aaron Donald were taken off this team, you'd look at it and be like, are you showing me an XFL roster right now? And that's pretty much what it is. There's only a couple players that you'd really be wanting to keep. Aaron Donald, Ernest Jones, Jordan Fuller, Darion Kendrick, and Kobe Durant, and probably Bobby Brown are the main guys you'd keep. You could keep Richard LeCount, Robert Rochelle as well, but everybody else would basically be off the team. Some of these guys aren't even supposed to be on the team. It's just the Rams have so few players on their team that it does not reach the positional requirements among the roster. So, I mean, hell, even their punter and kicker are bad. So if that just doesn't tell you exactly how bad this team's going to be next year, it's going to be pretty awful. But it'd be a fun storyline, right? You have no early picks. You don't have a ton of cap space. You just got rid of Allen Robinson for 7th. Your punter and kicker are bad. Your quarterback, you can probably send off into the sun. Aaron Donald probably should have retired after the Super Bowl. This would be a fun team to go and, rebuild. And I think the major thing would be, do you trade off Aaron Donald right away or do you not? Do you trade off Cooper Kupp right away? Do you trade off, Rob Havenstein, Cam Akers, Matt Stafford, Tyler Higbee? What do you do with all these guys that are slowly aging out and contracts are going to be up soon? What do? Do you trade them away for picks? Do you trade them away for young talent? Do you trade them away just to get the cap room off your team? This is probably my number one pre-draft choice, and I don't think it's going to change much. So yeah, the Rams are my choice of probably next year's franchise as of right now. Of course, things can always change, but hopefully if you guys enjoy this content or any other content here on my channel, I hope you guys stick around and subscribe. I will be planning on doing something kind of similar to this after the draft, as well as I'll be doing some Bears content, just around the draft as the draft is happening. I do have a roster video coming out, not going over the roster, but going over what's going to be happening over the course of draft night, days 1, 2, 3, and then further on, with the roster creation and stuff like that. And I should have more videos just coming out in general. Like I said, if you guys enjoy the content or any other content here on my channel, I'd appreciate it if you guys stick around and subscribe. With that being said, guys, I'm out. Peace.